Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, Ed, aka Savage Tech Man. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Geek Homeworld. I'm your host, Ed Ciucevich, and joining me once again is Scott Schreiber. Welcome.
Hey, thanks.
And this is our Oscar recap.
The 92nd Annual Academy Awards, hosted by nobody.
Yeah, again. I'd rather have a host, but I don't know.
Right, okay. Yeah, same here, but get what you get.
So we're going to kind of speed through this in a good way and just give you the highlights of things in interest of time and everything else. But anyway, check us out, Geek Homeworld, on Twitter. We're at geekhomeworld.libsyn.com. And go ahead and like that Facebook page. We're also on YouTube, Geek Homeworld. And so we're talking Oscars. I think just right off the bat, this was a year where we seem to agree. The Academy seemed to agree with us.
Yeah, a lot of our favorite films of the year were represented last night. I'm sorry. Some films that were not but for the most part, the Best Picture nominees lined up pretty much with what films we liked, except for really The Irishman. I think we both thought that was a little overrated, and
it was.
And that kind of showed in the wins last night. Out of all the Best Picture nominees, it was the only one to not take home an award. The Irishman, that is. It won 0 Oscars, so that kind of tells you right there, maybe it shouldn't have even been nominated for Best Picture. I don't know, but every other the other nominees, the 8 other Best Picture nominees, it took at least one Oscar home last night. But the big winner on the night was Parasite. It
Thankfully.
won.
My personal favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great night for Parasite, for international film. Parasite took home 4 Oscars. 1917 took home 3. Joker, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Ford vs. Ferrari all took home 2. And then they were sharing the love here. Jojo Rabbit got 1. Little Women got 1. Marriage Story got 1. Bomb Story, Toy Story, Bomb Story.
Bomb Story, I just called that.
Bombshell, Judy, and Toy Story, Rocket Man, they all got 1. So that definitely spread the love. I like when they do that. I don't like when one film dominates.
There were only a few shutouts, and the 2 popes had 2 popes, Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, Harriet, Pain and Glory, and Moneyland.
Honeyland.
I'm sorry.
Documentary international.
Sorry.
Those had.
I was wondering what Moneyland was.
No, those had multiple nominations that did not win.
Did not win.
A lot of those weren't. They weren't expected to win anything either. So, but yeah, overall, a great night for Parasite. Came out on top. When we were talking about, that was great. What it looked like it was coming down to for Best Picture and Director was between Parasite and 1917, and a lot of people were saying because of the technical feats of 1917 that it was the front runner, but I think Parasite had gained a lot of momentum over the last couple of weeks, especially with the Academy wanting to be inclusive. It was kind of like showing the world, like, hey, look, we can be inclusive. So, but again, I think that's not a reason to vote for something. But at least when that's a part of it, Parasite is a very deserving film. It was, deserving.
And so unique. And the thing about it is, with this whole awards, yes, there were some political things, but I felt like a lot was toned down this year, and it felt like a tighter show, even though it was a long show, and not the longest ever. But it was, they were kind of to the point, and all in all, I liked that. I didn't feel like I was being beat over the head with social justice or anything else. It
wasn't
overly.
It wasn't overly done. It was done. I think they did make an effort to counter the Oscars so white, hashtag by the opening number. Janelle Monáe came out and did an amazing job saying "Won't you be my neighbor," and then went into a whole this was the year in film song, and she killed it, went into the crowd, and was pretty amazing. Billy Porter joined her for that, saying Elton John's Still Standing. That was a cool moment to open the show. And then we got Steve Martin and Chris Rock who came out, which that was like a nice surprise moment where we were like, oh, wow, we're actually getting hosts.
Billy Crystal's going to show up eventually and other people.
And that's what I was hoping it would be throughout the night. There would be that common thread. Maybe all the past Oscar hosts came out, but that didn't happen. But it was good enough. Steve Martin, Chris Rock made some great jokes. They came out there, talked about how it was a demotion for them.
I love that, yeah.
But they were great. Other moments that didn't have to do with the categories or anything. Lin-Manuel Miranda came out and did a little speech about celebrating songs in film. Yeah. And they had that clip of all the great music moments in film, Reservoir Dogs, all these other great moments. And then it just went into Eminem's performance, which was
nobody saw coming.
No, that was the surprise of the night. And I think it was great to see him do this because he was not there the night that he won the Oscar, which would have been a great moment because Barbra Streisand was giving that award out that night. So it would have made maybe the greatest moment in history of Streisand handing an Oscar to Eminem would have been so funny and this
that would
weird
have been a meme before there were memes.
Right, a weird passing the torch.
Unfortunately, there's a meme out there of Scorsese. He looks confused.
Right, he didn't know what Eminem was saying.
And there's one where he's taking a nap. And it says, "I need you to stay awake for my 3.5 hour movie, but I can't stand a 15-minute or 10-minute performance. I need a nap." You know?
So that was maybe one of my favorite moment of the night. Eminem performing. It was him righting that wrong because he was not in attendance when he did win the Oscar. He did not perform the song that night, obviously, because he wasn't in attendance. So
I did enjoy Elton John's performance. I just thought it just felt like it was a real joyous performance because he does slow songs so well.
That was great too.
It was a nice uplifting song and bright and beautiful and wonderful.
Also, they had here's where it felt a little forced with the inclusivity. Forgive me, I don't know the Indian man's name, but he came out and rapped a recap of what had happened so far in the first half of it. I thought that was a little forced. It was like, hey, look at us, person of color rapping. And it was just, to me, it was a little much.
I think it was trying to keep the show hip, and it was also trying to, if you had fallen asleep like Scorsese, maybe it was for Scorsese. Maybe at that time they're like, what did I miss? And he's like, here, get somebody up there to rap real quick.
Yeah.
And
so that was interesting. They also had a moment where they announced the museum, the Academy Museum, is going to open at the end of the year, which is cool because it's like,
I kind of feel like I just assumed that
there was one.
There was one,
right? Which is that let us know that there isn't, and there will be soon.
Yeah.
And then the In Memoriam, Spielberg came out and introduced and introduced Billie Eilish.
The only problem is they did not stand for Spielberg. I would have stood for Spielberg.
Yeah, exactly.
They're probably so used to standing for Spielberg, but
he introduced Billie Eilish, who sang the Beatles yesterday as the In Memoriam went, and she did a great job.
I'm not I'm indifferent or whatever the word is. I'm not sure. I mean, her stuff's okay, but I enjoyed her performance. It felt very appropriate.
Sure.
And it was really cool. There were some people they left out.
Which is going to happen. You've only got, was it Luke Perry?
Yeah, Luke Perry was probably the biggest
Michael J. Pollard, who won an Oscar for Bonnie and Clyde. So there are going to be some people that are forgotten, though, because you have that limited amount of time. You can't get in everybody. And they also try to stick to Oscar winners or Academy members.
Now was Kobe in this one?
Kobe, yes. They started off with Kobe.
I thought
that was the
first
one.
I thought so. And I did see when they were behind the stage, somebody had his number on their back.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That was Spike Lee.
Well, Spike Lee did, yeah. Oh, was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was somebody else in the background.
So let's get to it. We'll start off with the biggest award of the night. And as we said, it was going to be, this is Best Picture.
Presented by Jane Fonda.
Yeah, Jane Fonda.
Who looked amazing.
She did.
She looked amazing.
She looked great. Does Silver Fox, does that apply to women? No, I guess
I don't know, but Grace and Frankie should be watching it. It's hilarious.
So we said that this was coming down to Parasite in 1917, and I thought 1917 would have been too safe of a choice.
It felt like, I've said, it felt like a movie made for the Oscars.
Right, exactly.
Like when you see a montage of the 100 years of Oscar, you'll see 1917, you still may see that.
But thankfully, it went to
Parasite.
Parasite won, and made history, the first ever foreign language film to win Best Picture. We thought it might have happened last year with Roma. It did not. I'm glad it did not last year because I think Parasite is a better answer to that trivia question because it's a better movie.
Bong Joon-ho. I'm saying it correctly.
No, you're not.
Okay, we're close enough. I just think of his poor hangover he's got this morning.
Oh yeah, he
this
definitely
is probably the
said he was
happiest
gonna,
hangover ever.
He was going to drink till the morning on each of his wins. He thought he was done after winning international film, but no, he had to come up for Best Picture and Best Director.
It was renamed. It was renamed. The award was renamed as the International.
So
he's kind of a first in that category if you want to consider that renaming.
Yeah,
first.
And I thought, just briefly to finish up on Best Picture, I thought that one of the lady that spoke, said something that was pretty important. She said this was a very opportune moment in history that is happening right now, and it really was. It was, international film winning Best Picture. I think it's a big step forward for the Academy, and hopefully we'll see more and more international films getting recognized. You only have like one here and there, and maybe we'll start getting more.
The only booze came when they turned the lights down and we're going to end the show.
Yeah.
And Jane Fonda's like, whoa, wait a minute now. And then you see Tom Hanks and everybody stand up and they're like, put the lights up. And they're motioning with their hands. And
they got him to do it.
And they got him to do it. And I'm like, okay. We don't.
Which, unfortunately, the lady that came on after that didn't have much to say.
I know.
But it was it was one of those moments where they cut off a woman of color.
Oh,
and so it was like, oh gosh,
and I didn't even think about that. I just figured they cut somebody off, and it, mid speech, and
so they had to rectify that.
It looked like Boone was going to come up and say something, but he was cool.
Because he had already spoken 3 times by that point, and one of those was for Best Director.
I mean, what he said was just beautiful. I mean, I loved all of everything.
So Bong Joon-ho won for Best Director. This was presented by Spike Lee. He had his Kobe Bryant suit on and in memoriam there. And Bong Joon-ho I liked his speech for this one where he actually paid homage to Scorsese, said that the most, films when they're most personal is the most creative. And that actually got the whole room standing up for Scorsese, which I thought was kind of an odd moment when you're supposed to be celebrating Bong Joon-ho. Everybody's standing in applause for Scorsese.
Because Bong was very original. He may have been inspired. We're all inspired by somebody, that starts us on our journey. I liked the little montage, and maybe it was for directors or whatever, and they had like James Cameron and different directors.
That was a commercial.
Was that a commercial?
Yeah.
Damn, I thought that was part of the... Well, I saw it during the telecast, so I can't keep up with all these things.
Yeah, that was a commercial. I think it had Inarritu and...
So then, what's next?
Best Actor.
Best Actor?
Yeah,
did we talk about songs?
We'll get that when we talk about the original song. Yeah.
Okay. Best Actor in a Leading Role.
Yeah, so this one went to who everybody thought it was going to, Joaquin Phoenix for Joker.
Well deserved. And here's the thing, during Actor and Actress and Best Picture, I kept second guessing myself. I was like, this one could win. This one could win. I could see where this one could win. And I had to tell myself, okay, shut up. And
exactly.
You know who's going to win.
For all the acting, they were pretty much all 4 acting categories. It was pretty much a foregone conclusion. No surprises here. Olivia Colman was the one that presented this.
I love Olivia Colman.
She's great, wasn't she?
She's someone I would love to hang out with. She just seems like a lot of fun.
She had one of the best quotes of the night. She said, last year when she won for the... what was it? The Favorite.
Right.
She said, last year was the best night of my husband's life.
And there's probably some
salacious.
I can't believe you said that. Oh my gosh, you're a powerful woman. How dare you say that? But
but
it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Like going to Phoenix and his speech, I think a lot of people will say it was the greatest speech of the night. Yeah, I think you said that.
I was moved by it.
He had a lot of great quotes. He said, all these people in the room share the love of film. He talked about an egocentric worldview with the environment and sustainability. The whole thing about the cow
and the cow's milk, and I was like, okay, I'm with you on this story. This sounds like a film.
And then he said, we're the voice for the voiceless, and that's why he gets up there and talks politics. And I get that, for me, it was a little much. It went on a little too long, but he saved it when he quoted his brother, I think, at the end. And I think that's what people are going to remember when he quoted his brother River Phoenix, who died tragically.
And like you said before we started recording, he really didn't talk about the role in Joker, which he could have said something.
Right.
I would have loved to hear him say something about portraying that character.
Yeah, he didn't talk about
because it actually
film.
kind of ties into a lot of this.
Right.
And, it's so socially relevant.
So I think that's where I was a little like, okay, you need to talk about the film, don't talk politics. But he did have a lot of great messages. He had a great message about second chances.
Yeah.
Because he said that he treated a lot of people wrong in the past, but they keep giving him second chances. But to go to the quote by his brother was, and he choked up when and he said the quote was, "Run to the rescue with love and peace will follow." And if he had just said that, I think it would have been the best speech of the night. But I do think that was the most poignant moment of the night. He definitely teared up, and like this was really a tribute to him and his brother. His brother, as great as Joaquin is, his brother probably could have been even better.
Well, he did say, I saw an interview where his brother told him not too long before he passed. But he said, "You're going to be a big film star one day."
Yeah.
And whether he was just saying that to his brother or he meant it, I felt like he meant it from the interview that I saw. And so it's come to pass. I've always liked Joaquin. He's wonderful. And it's so nice it's so great that he won this.
Yeah, that he's finally got one. This was his 4th nomination.
And I know on the next category, I know you disagree. You don't like the actor, but Rami Malek.
Rami presented Best Actress.
Best Actress, and I was like, there's 2 years in a row. There's 2 of my favorites, but I digress. So actress in a leading role, you could close your eyes and know what this was. Renee Zellweger for Judy.
Yeah, she had been winning all the precursors, and out of these nominees, she is the most deserving, in my opinion. I thought that Florence Pugh in Midsommar was the best performance of the year, but she's not nominated here. So it definitely, Renee deserved it. She gave a decent speech, although I think she did a lot of name listing, which I can't stand when she was just like, and Bob and Gary, and it's just like, okay, who are these people? And I get it, your emotions and whatnot, and you can be flustered, but she did say we celebrate our heroes, or when we celebrate our heroes, we agree, we are united. So that was a good message. It's like kind of like with what happened with Kobe. It's like when we start to celebrate our heroes, everybody unites and we forget about politics. And so I thought that was a good message. And just celebrating Judy Garland, who never won an Oscar. I think that she keeps saying that this is for Judy, and it really is as much as it is for Renee. She did disappear into Judy Garland, so she deserves it. But yeah, I think that was a foregone conclusion, as were the other acting awards, and the next one was supporting actor.
And Regina King, who looks spectacular.
She did. She looked great.
And I'm sorry, she should have somehow been nominated this year somewhere.
Well, for TV. For Watchmen, absolutely.
Yeah, we talked about it on the previous episode.
She's starting to get some recognition. She was at the Critics' Choice and whatnot. Yeah. But in next year's Emmys, I think she'll be up for it. But she came out and presented supporting actor here, which went to Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
And we kind of thought that, I was pulling a little bit for Tom Hanks, but it was hard for this one. For me, I kind of felt like there'd be a Joe Pesci, because he hadn't got one in 20-something years, but Pitt gave the best performance, and
I agree.
He was just a little bit better than Hanks. Than Hanks, but in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, just a little bit better than Leo in that. I just loved his performance, and I couldn't have been happier for Brad to win.
Yeah, and it's cool. It was one of those moments where the other 4, well, they're all legends, but the other 4 had already won an Oscar, so maybe that prompted people to say, okay, Brad Pitt needs an acting Oscar. He had won a producing Oscar for 12 Years a Slave, but now he has an acting one. He did give a little political quip. He said, this is 45 seconds more than John Bolton got, which was kind of a nice little, a little jab there.
I was like, this sets the tone for the night. But it didn't really set the tone, which is great. It wasn't overly political.
There weren't,
which was refreshing.
Other than him and Joaquin, I don't think there was, there wasn't a lot of politics.
And I like that.
I did like that he basically said that there should be an Oscar for stunt people because he plays a stunt person in this film, and he kind of made that point. I loved how he also mentioned that he watched Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid growing up, because we've made the comment that him and Leo
felt like that
created a Butch and Sundance duo. So that was cool that he mentioned that. And then we get to supporting actress. Mahershala Ali presented this as he won last year.
And this one, I disagree a little bit with. I think she nailed the role of what she plays, but it wasn't the best performance for me. And that's Laura Dern for Marriage Story.
Yeah, and I think we've said it before. In a way, this is Hollywood or the Academy rewarding her family, her fantastic acting family. Her mother, Diane Ladd, her father, Bruce Dern, had both never won Oscars. They've been nominated, but they never won. So in a way, I think this is kind of that lifetime achievement for their family. Not to take anything away from Laura Dern, but really the other performances for me are better. I would probably give it to Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit here, or even Zhao Zhuzhen for The Farewell, who's not even nominated. But she did, in her speech, she did thank her acting legend parents, which if she didn't, would have been a travesty there. So
next we have Best Original Screenplay.
Yeah,
and
we had this is for Diane Keaton and Keanu Reeves actually presented this, and they were pretty good. That was a weird, but they were in Something's Got to Give together. So
which they were a great. That was when I remember seeing that, and I'm like, oh wow, okay. It worked really well. They had good chemistry. They had better chemistry there than they did on stage.
Although Diane seemed a little loopy, and I don't know if that was on purpose or not. But
I don't know.
But this was a great moment because it was one of those, like, when a lot of these categories, you kind of know what's going to win.
Right.
And so here I thought, okay, this is a coin flip. Maybe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or maybe Parasite. And this was the first win of the night for Parasite, the first time we saw Bong Joon-ho. So to see it win screenplay was great. I know I had it as my top original. Yeah. Actually, my top original screenplay and top adapted screenplay, both screenplays ended up winning, which was nice. And adapted went to...
adapted went to Jojo Rabbit.
Yes, Taika Waititi is an Oscar winner. I love it.
And well deserved. I mean, I just, wow. That was a great film. That our overall, between both of us, best film of the year, funniest film of the year, hands down.
Oh, yeah.
My personal favorite is Parasite. I keep saying Paradise, but Parasite.
Right. And when we did our top 10, we talked about how JoJo and Parasite were our 1A and 1B. It was kind of tough to even distinguish.
It was hard to distinguish between our two kids.
Yeah, exactly. And I did like how Waititi basically dedicated it to all the indigenous people in the world.
Yeah.
I guess, I never really thought about it, but I imagine he is probably of Aborigine descent, coming from New Zealand. So a cool moment there, a good speech. I wish he had talked about the film a little more and about the film's message of the absurdity of hate. But you're in the moment and you just want to thank the people you want to thank and get your message out. But that was great because Jojo Rabbit
was fantastic.
And this made sure that it came away with at least one Oscar, and so it is. Jojo Rabbit is an Oscar-winning film. Thank you.
That's good to see. And so when the Thor: Love and Thunder comes out, it'll be from Oscar winner
Taika Waititi. Absolutely.
And our next category is animated feature film.
Yeah, this was another kind of coin flip.
Yeah. I kind of want to Missing Link to get it, or How to Train Your Dragon, but Toy Story 4.
Yeah, Toy Story 4 won it. It had gained some momentum, winning a couple of awards. I think maybe the Critics' Choice, and it won the BAFTA, I think. So that was I don't know if it's the best of the year. Missing Link for me was probably a little better because I'm fascinated by what Leica Studio does and how they make their films.
Now,
but
Claws is one I still have not seen, and I'm hearing such great things. I'm going to see that.
Yeah, it upset. I think it was at the Annies, where it won.
Yeah.
But it's on Netflix. I Lost My Body is on Netflix, so check those out. I did like how the winners of Toy Story 4 thanked everyone that grew up watching the films,
right. Yeah, number 4 wasn't necessary. It's a little bit darker, a little bit older, but they could have stopped at 3 and I would have been happy. And
3 was great. Yeah,
3 was perfect.
Yeah.
Anyway, international feature film is the next category, and the winner was Parasite from South Korea.
Yeah, that was the one that you could bet the house on and you weren't going to lose it.
And this is the one that was renamed. It was foreign film, and so now it's foreign language film. It's known now as international feature film. So
and I did like they put a package together of some great international movies. Penelope Cruz presented this, and I love the clips of all the foreign films they had. They had The Bicycle Thief and all these other great ones that have led up to this moment to where Parasite is now it won international film and Best Picture, never done before. This was where Bong Joon-ho said, "I'm ready to drink till the morning," and he thought he was done, but he was not.
And I love the build up and it all the way up to Best Picture, and we're doing the list obviously backwards, but yeah, if you watch the show, then you were I was rooting for him. So
absolutely.
Documentary feature is the next one, and American Factory won. Mark Ruffalo, who was in a pretty powerful film.
Dark Waters.
Yeah, Dark Waters this year, and which was nominated, but American Factory won. So
and Ruffalo is a fitting person to present. He's a big activist. So this was cool. It was even though the Obamas don't actually win an Oscar, they did produce the film. The person that came up there said, "Workers of the world unite," and evidently she quoted the Communist Manifesto. I had no idea, but of course some right-wingers came out and said that and made sure people knew that.
I did not know that.
But this was kind of had become a foregone conclusion. It had been winning. American Factory had been winning a lot of the precursors. I did like the lead up to it where they showed some clips of some great documentaries, but opened with Greta Thunberg and David Attenborough, their exchange that happened maybe a few weeks ago, where they talked about climate change and everything. So that was a cool moment. But then that went into documentary short subject, where Learning to Skateboard in a War Zone, If You're a Girl, won. And these are ones that are hard to predict because you don't see, they're not readily accessible. So we haven't seen them. But when I saw the title of this, I was like, that checks a lot of boxes. I think people are going to vote for that. So people know what it's about without even having to watch it. So that one won. The woman talked about Frank Capra, which was cool. And she said she's been in Afghanistan since 2005, and this is a lot of hard work. Live action short film was a cool moment with Shia LaBeouf and Zach Gostigan from Peanut Butter Falcon.
Right.
So that was a cool moment. Neighbor's Window won that one. Animated short was another great moment where Hair Love won, which basically was about black hair, and
people forget Chris Rock did a film about that a few years back, documentary.
And that was a good speech where they talked about representation is really important in Hollywood, especially in cartoons, because kids are exposed to the inclusivity and the representation there.
Our next category is original song, and that went to Joker.
Nope.
Original score. Excuse me. Original score for Joker.
Yeah, and presenting this, we had the team up of powerful women. We had Captain Marvel, Wonder Woman, and of course Ripley. We had Sigourney Weaver, Brie Larson, and Gal Gadot. It was a cool moment where
they were starting a fight club.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt was going to be on the roof with his shirt off, and everybody else is doing stuff to them, fighting and stuff.
And and it was a cool moment where he said all women are superheroes. And
if you lose their fight club, then you have to answer the question what it's like to be a female in the industry. Yeah. They were joking.
And so I think they knew who was going to win this, so it was kind of an appropriate moment to have three powerful women up there because this was another history-making category. Hildur God, see, I can't even pronounce it.
I'm not even trying.
Right, she won for Joker, and poor Sigourney Weaver, she couldn't pronounce her name correctly, and she looked embarrassed.
And she knows her name's Sigourney Weaver. Oh, no.
No, the composer. But this is the first solo female composer to ever win. I believe a woman has won this award, but in tandem with a man. So this is the first time a solo female has won this award. Very deserving for Joker. I mean, the score is so haunting and sets the mood so perfectly for Joker. I'm so glad that this won. Joker got 2 awards. This was one of them. And she had a great message. She said to all the little girls out there, who want to make music, please speak up. We need to hear your voices. So, a great moment for girls and women out there.
And when you're going against John Williams, it's kind of hard, but he was up for Rise of Skywalker in there.
Well, all the others, you have John Williams, you have Thomas Newman, Randy Newman for Marriage Story, and Alexander Desplat. I mean, these are all legendary composers. So for her to come out on top. I may
have not known that Randy Newman did Marriage Story, which is so impressive.
He was a double nominee last night.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Original song was I'm Gonna Love Me Again from Rocket Man.
Yeah.
And Elton gave a great performance of that. And when he won, you could just tell how excited he was. I mean, this was his life story.
Yeah. Especially
see him and Bernie Taupin win together.
Sharing it with Bernie Taupin.
53 years of working together. And they got an Oscar.
Yeah.
For this.
And this is his, Elton John's second Oscar, but he definitely looked like more appreciative for this because it was with Bernie. And out of all the 5 performances, I thought Elton John's performance was the best. It definitely is the best song I thought when you take into consideration the live performances. It was cool to see Randy Newman out there performing. Again,
I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away from Toy Story 4.
Cynthia Erivo performing stand up was pretty powerful.
Which is a powerful song. Yeah. I'm almost surprised that didn't get it, but but I'm over the moon excited about Rocket Man winning the song.
And the other performances, I don't know. The lackluster one for me was I'm Standing With You from Breakthrough. It was Diane Warren's nominated song, and Chrissy Metz from This Is Us performed it. Mm-hmm. But it just kind of, compared to the other ones, kind of fell flat. And it's like, okay, it's another love ballad by Diane Warren. Why is this even nominated, in my opinion? But then
fantastic.
The close second or the performance of the night was Into the Unknown for Frozen 2, where it was a great performance by Idina Menzel. Josh Gad made a great joke of it's Idina Menzel, pronounced exactly how you spell it, kind of making fun of the Travolta moment from years ago. And it was a cool global performance from what they called it, where they had 10 different Elses performing in other languages. It was a cool moment. So, but again, Elton John winning for Rocket Man, one of the better moments of the night. Definitely deserved.
Then we get to sound editing, and some people mix that up with the sound mixing category and like, what is what? But this one, it could have went to 1917, we thought.
Yeah.
But Ford versus Ferrari, and probably rightfully so.
Yeah, sure. I think the editing is its strength, is Ford versus Ferrari's strength. So definitely deserving here. It was cool moment here where they thanked James Mangold, who doesn't get enough credit for his work. He did Walk the Line in Logan.
Yeah, is this where they said that he should have been nominated for Best Director?
Yeah.
We're not shy about that. So.
No, they were not. And so, but again, I thought these two, both sound awards would go to 1917, so it was nice to see Ford Ferrari get one of them, but sound mixing did indeed go to 1917.
Right, and I think that one was well-deserved. I mean, that was a runaway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ad Astra, possibly there was, maybe a case for that, but a good film, but didn't make it. Production design.
Now, this was probably my favorite introductory, like the presentation with Maya Rudolph and Kristen Wiig.
Oh my gosh.
Going back and forth, and they're,
This is called acting.
Doing what they do best. That was so funny. Yeah, exactly. When they were basically making sure all the directors in the room knew that they were capable of drama.
They started crying and everything. Those are fake tears.
That's called acting. That you should have had John Lovitz up there with him.
Acting.
But production design ended up going to.
It went to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, and I think well deserved. I think you could argue for 1917 because of how they turned the landscape into, the devastated World War I battlefield.
Right.
But when you take it's hard when you have to take films and go back in time. They had to create a Hollywood from 50 years ago.
Right.
So and they nailed it. I did like how they did go up there and they thanked the crew, they thanked the construction department, they thanked the prop makers, they thanked the swing gang. So all the little people, so to speak, got thanked
I did like back in the sound categories, they were thanking their crew. They thanked their crew and
and that actually comes up next on
cinematography.
Too.
His in 1917 won for cinematography.
Yeah, Roger Deakins. Yeah, the legendary Roger Deakins gets his second Oscar.
Well deserved. Well deserved. And yeah, he said his focus puller. He's never made a mistake. And I mean, wow, can you imagine, getting that kind of compliment? Because not everybody gets that recognition.
Right. That was classy of Deakins to thank his focus puller, thank his camera ops, thank his gaffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, my best friend, the gaffer. And Will Ferrell and Julia Louise Dreyfus.
Yeah, they
they were confused. What is cinematography? They're the people that bring you the food. They come in the golf cart and say it's time to go to set.
Yeah, that was another great moment. When you get these great comedians up there, those are usually the best presenters.
But when the director got up there and he said, "I actually am a good cook,"
Deakins, the DP, the cinematographer.
Yeah. So that was awesome. Next category: makeup and hairstyling, and. Bombshell. Yeah. I can't disagree with it.
No, that was pretty much one of those like cinematography, like international film, where it was pretty much a lock. I mean, how could you not give it to Bombshell?
Right.
The way that they made Charlize Theron look like Megyn Kelly and all the others.
Megyn Kelly's mother probably couldn't tell the difference. I mean, that's how good it was.
Yeah.
Like you said, Bill O'Reilly was in there, and
it looked so
that's supposed to be Bill O'Reilly.
It looked so much like him. Like you really thought, did they actually get Bill O'Reilly? But this was presented by Ray Romano and Sandra Oh. That was another funny intro where they basically said that they. Makeup and hair teams are so great that Ray Romano was actually Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
But and Kazu, I can't remember his last name, the gentleman who won the award, whose makeup thanked Charlize and basically said this isn't possible without Charlize. But then maybe the worst moment of the night, the hairstylists got cut off and they weren't even allowed to speak. So the female hairstylists were kind of shunned here. They went up to talk and they basically cut them off and went to commercial. And yeah, it was a little awkward moment there, but it happens. It's a live show.
If they come on my show, Sven on Film, I would not cut them off.
There you go.
They would have their spotlight. Anyway, So costume design, the winner of that was Little Women.
Yeah, this is Little Women's lone win. A lot of people thought Greta Gerwig was going to win for screenplay. She did not, but at least Little Women gets a trophy here.
Yeah,
much deserved. Probably the most intricate, and that probably the just in abundance in amount of work they had to do, especially for those scenes like at the Belle of the Ball scenes and whatnot.
Yeah, this was a slam dunk. I think Little Women was made for this category.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, this was another one that Maya Rudolph and Kristen Wiig presented, and had a medley of basically singing songs that had pieces of clothing in the titles, and they did another great job presenting there. But yes, Little Women, thank goodness, does have at least one Oscar, much well-deserved. I thought maybe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood could get this, but Little Women, very deserving.
Yep. And then the next category is film editing, and rightfully so goes to Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought maybe Parasite could win this, but it went to Ford versus Ferrari. We had talked about the intricacies of putting this film together, where the Grand Prix race at the end, they filmed at 4 separate locations and then had to splice that together to make it seamless and make it look like, they were at one location. So that was great. Ford vs. Ferrari won 2 awards. This was one of them. There were units that filmed here in Savannah. Right. So Savannah represented a little bit at the Oscars. So
and just one little tidbit of information that got sent to me while I'm recording. Talking about sound editing, Donald Sylvester, he was a UGA graduate. So he's a bulldog from their School of Journalism there, I think, or something like that.
Cool.
Anyway, so a little alumni there. Note. Visual effects was our next category, correct?
The final category we had to go over. Yeah, and this gave one of the great presentation moments too, as James Corden and Rebel Wilson came out in their full Cats uniform. And
all that glory.
Yeah, and they said, out of anybody, they should know how important visual effects is because they were in Cats. So that was a great moment, pretty funny, especially when the winners came up and accepted their award, and they had that wide shot of them accepting, but then you had Corden and Wilson just standing there off to the side, and it just looked so funny and awkward. But the winner here, which somewhat of a surprise, as we thought maybe Endgame, Star Wars, Lion King, all pretty heavy on visual effects, would have been front runners, but it went to 1917, yeah, and which I think is extremely deserving. There are definitely some moments in it that were obvious and had to be visual effects, especially the way it was filmed. Like the part with the plane had to have been at least some practical effects or whatnot. Yeah, so. And then there was a lot of they showed the package where it showed the facade of the buildings was actually real, but then green screen behind it.
When he goes into that, makes it through that bombed out city and he gets to that one thing and that building's on fire, I'm like, no. I just assumed they built that and then, burned it up.
It's all visual effects. It's
all visual effects. And yeah, like when he's jumping off into the river, that's just... There's like he just jumps over this small little thing, and then they get cut to the next scene, and all for a single take film. That was an incredible film. I'm surprised it didn't win more, but I am completely happy with what won.
Right.
And
and the ones that the other awards that it was thought to have to be contenders for went to the other side of the coin, because again they were categories where there were 2 that you thought would win, and the other one won, and 1917 didn't. But it still had a nice showing, 3 awards. I think the visual effects was the Academy too, maybe pushing back on Marvel, pushing back on we don't want to reward Marvel this year after all this.
Because they've had 9 separate $1 billion films.
Well, Disney did. They had 7, I believe, but it's that pushback of okay, we're gonna reward actual cinema, like what Scorsese says. So, but again, a good showing for 1917. It won 3. Parasite, the big winner, with 4, and the Academy spread the love. And I like it when they do that.
Next year we get to look forward to Kevin Hart coming back as host.
Maybe. I mean,
wouldn't that be nice?
I think
that would be.
I think we do need a host.
Yeah.
It has worked, I guess, to an extent the past 2 years
without one, but
it just feels
a host kind of, and they're an MC, they kind of hold it together, and
right.
And I kind of miss that,
Absolutely.
Bring back Chris Rock and Steve Martin. I'll watch that. Definitely watch that.
Yeah. So what was your favorite moment of the night?
My favorite moment. I don't know what was my favorite. There were a lot of favorite
You want me to tell you what your favorite moment?
Tell me. I've already told you my favorite moment, but it'll spark my memory.
No, I don't think you have. You have to.
Oh, I haven't told you.
No, you haven't. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, gosh.
So maybe you don't have one.
Parasite winning Best Picture. Okay, let's. I mean, that's the easy one to go with.
Yeah.
I was just so, and that's so socially conscious, and I feel like I said to someone recently that when I saw Parasite, I feel like that's a look into the future. That's like there's a big economic disparity in this country, and I feel like this showed that class structure of the haves and the have-nots, and there's so much of that going on in the world, and it felt like a relevant topic, and that film was just so beautifully done.
Yeah.
Other moments, I enjoyed Elton John. I wish Edgerton, what's his
Right. I was hoping for that too, because
I thought he was going to come in and sing with Elton.
Right. Because there is a version on the soundtrack, I believe, where they're both on the song.
Right.
So it would have been cool to see Taron Egerton.
Elton did, give him accolades, of course, because of his great performance.
That would just tell me that maybe he wasn't available. He's filming and just couldn't get away, because it would have been a great moment to have them both there. But
anytime Will Ferrell's involved with
yeah, exactly.
Guess being a host or whatever, or his part, his bits are always funny. He always just finds that awkwardness, and
for the most part, all the presenters were pretty good, pretty funny. I mean, I really liked Maya and Kristen Wiig.
They were
definitely Will Ferrell and Julie Dreyfus, James Corden and Rebel Wilson with their moment.
Yeah,
and even just not presenting, but the Steve Martin and Chris Rock moment at the beginning. Those were some great moments.
Pretty cool.
I love the Eminem moment. I thought that was rectifying a Oscar wrong from the past. So cool moment there. But I agree. My favorite moment, Best Picture, is winning and going to Parasite. It sends a statement for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And so many years where we get Best Pictures that aren't very deserving, seem like a political choice.
Yeah.
And we've seen that a lot recently. And really, it's the first Best Picture winner since maybe No Country for Old Men for me that I can actually really get behind. It's like nothing to take away from, say, Shape of Water or some other ones that I'd liked, but
Parasite's something that I think I could watch 5 years from now and still feel it's relevant.
I'll go see it again.
I want to see it again. In fact, I was thinking about that during the ceremony. Said I've got to go check this out.
And it did get a re-release here in Savannah last week, but then it disappeared again this week. So I don't know if it'll come back now after winning Best Picture.
I really think it ought to be a prerequisite if you win Best Picture, especially, or Best Director or something, that like maybe some of the top awards, or Best Actress or Best Actor, that those films, if they're already gone from cinemas, they ought to come back at least for a week or two or something.
I do think it's getting a DVD release very soon, so maybe they won't put it back in the theaters.
It's definitely one that I would like to own, that I can rewatch it, and it's kind of Hitchcocky in a way,
Oh, absolutely.
And there's so many great elements to it. So I was excited that Parasite. I didn't think it would win Best Picture, especially like we've been saying all along. It got international And then, the screenplay award, one of them.
Once it won screenplay and director, I thought,
I guess we're really done.
It's gonna. No, I thought that was a cue that it was gonna win Best Picture.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Especially when you win screenplay and director.
Yeah. And sometimes they don't give, and we talked about this on the previous episodes, especially the nomination special that you want to check out here on the podcast preceding this episode. We talked about, usually you get director, then they'll spread the love and give, how can you be the best director but not have the best picture? And so this year they lined up like it should. Yep. And not all the time should it, but
no, I think it's been at least 4 or 5 years since that's happened. So.
And it deserved, Parasite deserved everything it got, and if not more, but definitely best picture. So that's all I've got. And I guess you already said your favorites too.
Yeah.
Moments. Yeah. And so that's all we've got. Let us know what you think at Geek Homeworld on Twitter. Check us out on Facebook. Go ahead and like our page and follow us on Geek Homeworld on Facebook. And we're at geekhomeworld.libsyn.com. Also, we're on Anchor and all those other podcast places, Google Podcast app, iTunes, all that. So I want to thank Scott Schreiber for joining me once again.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. And people out there, go see these movies. If they're not in the theater, check them out. Go to your Redbox. Go to however you watch movies. Check them out or watch these movies. It was a great year in film.
And this year of 2020, make a promise to us now that you'll go out and you'll search out those films and you'll support those films that might not get that spotlight. And because you'll be a better person for seeing more diverse films.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all that. All right. Well, y'all have a wonderful time at the movies, and thanks for listening. Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld with your host, Ciucevich Techman. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+. Follow and interact with us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes and leave a review, subscribe to us on YouTube, read our thoughts on Blogger. See you again on the Geek Homeworld.